in my desire to help, I had created more opportunity for problems, right? And so then what I realized, and this is, just me, learning and evolving as a Christian and a person, that if I can help, I help. But if I need to drive by and pray, then I'm going to help that one.
Hey, Islanders, and welcome to episode 112 of the Camano Voice. Today I speak with the founder of Box of Good, as well as Cal Can Help. Please welcome Tristan Klesick.
Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. On this episode, I got to speak with Tristan Klesick, and if that name sounds familiar to you, he's actually come up in a few other podcasts, specifically like Tobin's podcast talked about working for Klesicks or Box of Good. And so he's someone that I've known about within the community for a while. My dad's known him, my brother-in-law has known him, Tobin's known him. So I've known about him, heard about him, and known that he's been a business person in this community for almost 20 years now. And so he's someone I really wanted to connect with and be able to interview. And so we finally got connected and set up a time to sit down. And Tristan, like I said, he's been in this community for quite a while now and started with farming and kind of building up a CSA box that they would do deliveries for. And over time, that continued to evolve and become its own business and how that operates. But then recently took some of that platform that he'd built out on that, or that his team had built out, and actually launched a second business, moving from veggies and fruit into a software company. So we get to talk about all of that, the different challenges there are in starting a software company versus something that's more tangible, hands-on. So we get into all of that and more in this interview. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Tristan Klesick. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with the founder of Box of Good and Cal Can Help. Welcome to the podcast, Tristan Klesick.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate the opportunity to come and share.
Yeah. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about Tristan.
Yeah, we're relatively new to the Camano Stanwood area. We got here in 2003,
Okay.
which seems like a newbie compared to some of the families that have been here since, the 1800s. But we love it up here. And the reason we even came to this area, Joelle and I moved here, is because of farmland. Back then it was more affordable, and it's just beautiful ground up here. Just a place to raise a family, but also to raise vegetables. And so we found this whole farm, and it was rough condition, but we wanted to farm, and so we just got to work on restoring the house and planting crops.
Okay. Nice. So where did you end up growing up then?
Joelle's from Snohomish.
Okay.
Probably fourth generation Snohomish person, and then I was in South Everett.
Okay.
And so farming really wasn't in either of our backgrounds, but eventually we found our way to the land.
Yeah. So did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to college down in Forest Grove, Oregon at Pacific University, and Joelle went to Western.
Okay.
And we just kept in touch through college and got married right after she graduated in 89.
Okay.
And been in love ever since. It's really,
Nice.
It's a beautiful thing to be in love with your best friend.
Very cool. What did you study while you were in college?
Business, I guess. I played soccer and did student leadership, and but mostly just went down the business track and got out in 4 years. I had worked in Alaska during the summers, so a place called Petersburg, and so that was, long hours and hard work. Didn't want to necessarily be on the cannery crew forever.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of got out of college, got married, and started figuring our way through life. And today, here we are.
Yeah. So was when you were going to college and deciding on business as a degree, was that something you had been interested in, or was there guidance from your parents?
I went there to play soccer, and then I thought I would do physical therapy. I really liked physical therapy.
Yeah.
Well, there was way too much science at that point. I realized that I did not like science that much. And so then I pivoted just to business. And my dad's always been in business. And and business is solving problems, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the goal of a small business owner, is to find a niche and then begin to meet it and help people have, a better experience or better service. And so I really like problem solving. And that's why I find myself on, local committees or in leadership positions, because you're solving problems.
Right.
And you get to serve people. And I think that as a business owner, solving problems and serving people are just it's a wonderful thing to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I'm always blown away by the San Juan Camano area. I've been able to interview a lot of the different directors or executive directors or presidents of the local nonprofits and stuff. And I'm always blown away by the qualifications that they bring to the table. It's not like, I wasn't doing anything, so I decided to jump into this. It's like people that were CEOs, ex-CEOs, or directors of very large nonprofits or companies, and they've come to this area, and then they take over our different, nonprofits, and they've done such a good job with it.
Yeah, I think that people who are in leadership positions or gravitate towards that responsibility, it's almost in their DNA. They have to continue. It's it's just a part of how they're wired, and they know they're good at it. And the older you get, and now that I'm north of 50, I'm fairly selective about the things I do, because there's some things I don't do well.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to carry water. I say that as a figurative speech, but I could do anything in a business. But I was really good at the promotion, the marketing, the vision. And so as soon as I could hand off the bookkeeping or hand off the planning, I would hand that off immediately.
Right.
But until then, I would just carry it until I could find the right person to come alongside and join the team.
Right. Yeah, and that makes a huge difference. I think. You've gone through the startup world twice now, and just that whole process of everything relies on you in that beginning part, and you're doing every single thing. But yeah, and divesting as you get those good people on that are able to take do that job better than you and enjoy it.
who are wired to do that job, right?
Exactly.
And so it is important to think about the seat on the bus, right? Jim Collins' book, or Good to Great. It's like my businesses really have morphed based on the talent that's shown up.
Yeah.
And as a Christian, I'm really, really loose with how I hold people, because I want them to fulfill their commission, their calling in life. And as people join our team, I'm just excited to plug them in where it makes sense. And if it's only for a month or for 6 years, I don't really care. I just want them to come and be a part of the team and walk with us. And so being able to, just find people their spot.
Yep.
And then the business changes, because it's really not my business. It's kind of like a community business. It's a team business. And then when they have that freedom to be themselves, oh my goodness, unlock potential.
Yeah.
It's not super exciting to see that happen.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think when I was first taken over with the marketplace and just working in general, I'm always a person that thinks in the long term. And so I want to find these young people, this young talent, and then just coach them along, and then have them stay with the company for 30 years.
Yeah.
And 90% of who we bring through our business are on to college or on to other, great things. And so, that was a big shift in my mind of no, my job isn't to take these people, bring them in, and then they're going to be with us forever. It's to prepare them for their next stage in life, and then allow them to move on into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for you to do that. A lot of businesses, tend to kind of want to hang tightly to their team members. Mm-hmm. And even in our business, we ask them, we say, if you're planning on moving on, just let us know. Give us 3 months, 4 months, 6 months notice. We don't care. We want what's best for you.
Yeah.
And people are really free that way, because they know that, you want what's best for them, and then they give you a long notice, and you can plan, because it is hard to replace a team member.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole, if you get 2 weeks in today's day and age, count yourself lucky, because that's not common, but 2 weeks is so short in reality.
Oh, it is almost impossible to turn on a dime, right? Even the simplest business is not simple.
Right.
It's a lot more complex today than it ever has been.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys were looking around. So you guys were living in Everett. So after you graduated college, what were you guys doing then?
Well, we were starting a family, and many people might know this. I know this. I don't know. We have 9 children. 6 are married now, and we have 7 grandkids and 1 more in the oven that's coming. And
congratulations!
Yeah, it's super exciting to see another generation on the ground. And so we were, busy, starting our family. And I had went to work for a company called Marriott Industries, which was kind of a mats and mop, uniform rental company.
Okay.
And got bought out by a company called Cintas. And
Yep.
so Cintas is the company that bought them. And so I learned about deliveries. And and one of my customers was a produce stand in Portland. And I didn't grow up in Portland, but I went to school in Portland. So I had connections in there. And so I went to work for him because I just couldn't see myself hauling rugs and uniforms and things like that for 30 more years. And so I'm wired to be a business owner and not necessarily, do that. And so I went to work for a small produce company and I got to know produce. And then I got to meet these organic farmers. And this is back in the early 90s, right? And then these people were part of something new and unique and alive and having a family and sort of, as a Christian, there's a stewardship built into you. Mm-hmm. We're here to steward the garden. We're here to take care of the resources. And so we just started, that journey. And so I had delivery experience with my own route sales, doing mats and mops and uniforms. And then I got this produce experience. And then I met these farmers. And so at that point, I started to pull those experiences together to get me on this track towards a home delivery company.
Okay.
But it still took another 5 or 6 years before I even was able to launch the company. But we were making stride towards getting a little bit of land and starting our own produce store and things like that.
Yeah. So when you guys were looking at farmland up here in this area, then was that was with the intent? That wasn't just going to be a home farm. That was with the intent of continuing to move forward.
Oh, yeah. The house itself, my mom, she saw the house. She says, "You're going to tear that down and put a mobile home on this property or something?" I said, "Oh, no, we're going to fix the house." But the barn, it was a pole building, and it was perfect for a packing facility. It was perfect for our Box of Good program, And before then, we had packed out of a smaller facilities, and we rented land. And, but when we got to Stanwood, it really felt like we were farming more. We had 23 acres now, not 2 acres, and it was ours and not rented. And, so it was very exciting.
Yeah. So then how was that when you guys first moved in and you started getting things started? What was that kind of like in the beginning for you guys?
Well, we had a remodel project at that point. And so we were remodeling a barn, a house, raising children. I think Joelle was pregnant with number 7 at that point. And so we wanted to get the house finished so that the baby could be born not in the barn. So yeah, that was a close call there. But we ended up finishing that. So it was, a lot of juggling. But when you're younger, in this case, we're in our mid 30s, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, parenting's hard work for sure.
Yeah.
And, and running a business is hard work. But when you're just in your passion and you have so much to do, you don't notice.
Right.
It's harder when you have to go out and do the work. But when you have so much to do, it's like, I don't have a choice. I got to go.
Yeah. No, for sure. And you're just kind of living in this, this kind of chaos. And then you're just trying to bring a little bit of order and move it in one direction at least.
Yeah. And it was an interesting season because we, about 5 years before we moved to Stanwood, we had started our company and we had a produce store inside of a health food store. And then I met a CSA farmer, Claire, who had the oldest CSA in Washington.
Okay.
And so I was actually selling her my produce before her season started because her customers wanted to support her, but she couldn't grow anything in March and April.
Right.
And so she bought produce from me, reboxed it up, and then delivered it to her customers. And then she went to her CSA during the CSA season. And I started thinking, wow, this is pretty cool. And so at that point, I started to do like a mini CSA inside my produce store. And so I had 30 moms who were willing to come by on Friday and pick up a $30 bag of produce.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wow, it's amazing. So I can work, for a couple hours maybe on a Friday and sell, 30 bags of produce, or I could stand here for 10 hours all day, And so at that point, I'm like, oh, maybe I should go home and be with these 6 kids and help my wife, And so that's what sort of started us was that, connection to that farmer. Of course, meeting the farmers initially and then connecting with that farmer, Claire, and then just, seeing how a box program could work. And at that point, this is 1999, 2000, we're talking .com bubble.
Yep.
Homegrocer.com just went out of business. Webvan just bought them and they went out of business. And so then all of a sudden I'm starting a box program after these major players have just gone out of business.
Right.
What is going on here and what is crazy? And of course, the economy was in bad shape at that point because, the stock market lost huge amounts of value and people were like hunkered down. But there was such an energy about small farms back then and family farms. And it just kind of, I fell into that spot. And your father started it about the same time with subscription coffee.
Yeah.
And there just was something about delivered high quality family-touched products.
Right.
And we were just kind of on that wave. And so we didn't even really have to advertise much. It was so much word of mouth.
Yeah.
To go from 50 customers to 100 customers, that's not a big lift, right? But to go from 1,000 to 2,000, that's a bigger lift.
Right.
But in those early days, to go 50 to 100 and 100, 150, which was a huge amount of growth. And it was plenty for us to do. But it was amazing that we'd actually could now farm and deliver good food, because we've only delivered organic food for 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been able to be true to that mission and find customers.
Yeah.
But it hasn't always been easy.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Amazon figured that out, right? They were selling books when I started my company, and Google got incorporated the year I began. And so those guys have been playing ball for a while. And Amazon, their profit is your margin, and so they sell produce, and they, do. And then there was HelloFresh and Instacart and, Blue Apron and produce. And so this got really lean.
Yeah.
And so we had to make some decisions about how we're going to compete in this space. Because we're a little company and we don't have deep pockets and we're not venture capitalist backed, right? We got to spend our own profits to grow these companies.
Yeah.
And so that was about 2016 when it was super lean. And then, we met Tobin. I've known Tobin for years, of course, but Tobin, he just entered into our world and this is the part on the bus, right? Somebody comes in with these talents and, I just said, Tobin, you just take your talents and you sit down with every department. And we created a brand new fulfillment software so we could compete with Amazon and HelloFresh, because we recognized that the days of having multiple people answer phones just wasn't the reality. People weren't calling anymore either, right? They were all texting or wanted to do, Facebook Messenger or something.
Yeah.
So the phone hardly rang anymore, it seemed like. And so we just, automated so much of our processes.
Right.
And it made us leaner and we could get by with less administrative help. We still needed drivers and packers.
Yep.
But that moment when Tobin, entered our world and we just kind of unleashed him and Peter, to get after it, they had a template, they had processes, they had systems in place that we'd done for years.
Yeah.
But then they just where it made sense to automate, we automated, and where it made sense to touch with people, we kept those places.
Right.
And that was the genesis of our second business, which is, Cal.
Yeah.
Customer aligned logistics is like, small businesses need better tools. The Shopifys, the Facebook pages, they do a little bit Squarespace, and you probably use a couple of those because you're a retail store.
Right.
But they don't do the whole gamut for a subscription business.
Yes.
It's a totally different beast to run a subscription business and recurring sales and all the fulfillment that goes on. And so when we did that software, and then, in 2020, of course, we all want that to go away, right? I mean, what a season to be in business in March and have this world, like just collapsing, and seeing the China, response to the virus, right? And then, then all of a sudden it shows up in Washington and you're like, people are really nervous.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, our servers collapsing because we can't handle the demand that people are logging in. We had like 400,000 people, it seemed like, in a week try to get product from us. And we're localized, King County to Skagit.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But our system didn't break. I mean, it shook.
Yeah.
Because we never had to onboard 400 new families at a time, right? Like that was brand new to us. But when I saw that we could scale with our system, then at that moment I pivoted and I said, this is going to become a product.
Yeah.
We're going to offer this to other small businesses who are trying to figure out, because home delivery is here to stay.
Yep.
And if we can help other businesses have a comprehensive kind of software solution to do e-commerce, whether you use a ship station and you use the post office or whether you use your own fleet, and have one tool that could do that, and so we personally started investing in making this less, we say declassify, so because it was written for Klesicks and Klesick Family Farm at that moment. And so we had to declassify it and we had to make it work for coffee companies and bagel companies and meal delivery companies and juice companies. And even a shed company now is using our software.
Nice.
And so it's been a learning curve for sure, but it seems like every time there's a disaster, .com bubble, a 9/11, or this pandemic, we just tend to run towards the opportunity as opposed to hunker down.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are today. We're sort of coming out of that last investment and now we're breaking even. But software companies are a totally different beast than fulfillment.
Yeah. Well, and that's, we've kind of had a little bit of that ever since I've been here on the team. But just the drastic difference between the coffee roaster and the marketplace. They're very intertwined, but completely different businesses and how they run and operate. They're just completely different issues that you run into, and there's so many different levels there.
Yeah, the supply chains are different. The things you need to purchase, they need to purchase. We're also an organic farm. And so, during that pandemic, we had to figure out how we're going to try to grow food. And there's no labor, and you got to grow like 3 or 4 times the amount of food you normally grow, and is it going to stick, not stick? And, when you put something in the ground, you got to grow it out. I mean, we're talking, sometimes like 6-7 months before you harvest something, right? And you got to weed it, water it, and then harvest it. Like, how are we going to handle this? But it was so crazy that we had to have the farm team come inside and pack boxes and make deliveries, because during that early day of the pandemic, it was all hands on deck.
Yeah.
And so that was, most important was to, to feed people and to do that. And our software Brandon was so amazing. Like, I answered the phone and somebody said, can you deliver to me? And they're like in Bothell, and we'd have a truck in Bothell, and we purposely pack extra boxes on our vehicles because, life happens and people make a mistake and I said, well, if you can take this box, I can have it delivered in 10 minutes. And they were waiting 3 or 4 weeks for a spot at Whole Foods to pick up their produce, right? They couldn't even get a spot.
Yeah.
And here I am 10 minutes later because our software was so robust. Let me just, call the driver, refresh your iPad, and then, put a new spot on there, and they just delivered their extra box.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is an amazing opportunity to serve people.
Yeah.
And at that point, Brandon, people really, they just didn't know.
Right.
They just didn't know. And now it's much more muted. And of course, with the Delta variant happening now, it's again sort of like, we have to remember hope.
Yeah.
And I think, I was reading about POWs, and the ones who didn't make it out of POW camp were the ones who thought, Christmas, I'll get out at Christmas. I'll get out at Easter. I'll get out. And, and those days came and they went by and they came. But the ones who said, I'm never getting out of here, they survived because they didn't set their expectation. They didn't get dashed. And I think with this Delta variant, we need to keep hope.
Yeah.
We need to, not think we're going to get out of this maybe tomorrow. We need to just say we're going to get through this.
Right.
And we're going to do whatever it takes to get through this now. Because when we start to build up that hope on a certain date, it has no basis at all.
Right.
Other than the fact it's a nice number to pick.
Yeah. And it seems far enough down that, like, of course it'll be done by then.
Yeah. So I just want to encourage people to, just to be diligent and to be kind and to put a smile on people's faces, because that hope, that joy is probably the best medicine we can have during this season.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been our biggest, our mission at the marketplace is to bring joy to the Camano Island community through food, service, and drink.
Yeah.
And when we're bringing people on, we want to make sure they understand that that's our mission in what we're doing, because we don't know what type of world they're coming into, from.
Exactly.
And they're coming to our business to escape it for a few minutes, to get a croissant and a coffee and just enjoy that. And especially in today's world and everything, all the chaos that's going on, we feel like that mission is more important than ever to bring that to those people, to our customers and to the people.
I just think anytime you have a chance to make somebody's life better for a year or a minute, we should just do it.
Yeah.
We should just bless them. And planting those kinds of seeds, those bear really good fruit down the road. Mm-hmm. And it's you're just happier when you can bless.
Yeah.
And put a smile on somebody's face. And even through a mask, it's harder with the mask, but people's eyes still light up.
Yes.
You can tell joy
when
you connect with somebody and they're just happy to see you.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Good on you to do that.
Yeah. So, you've obviously, with being in business for that many years, you've had a lot of new people come in, come out. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned as far as human resources, working with the team, encouraging them, and finding talent?
I'm always interviewing. If I'm at the grocery store, if I'm at the park, I'm always interested in people's stories.
Yeah.
What are they doing and what's going on in their world? And then, of course, friends of friends. Good people hang out with good people.
Yep.
Talented people hang out with talented people. Right. And so you always want to sort of, mine into your network of employees.
Yeah.
Right. And really be open-minded, because people do change. So, that 12-year-old kid that was super annoying at the co-op, now is 19 and a young man.
Yeah.
Or a young lady.
Yeah.
And they have found their bearings, and so you want to be open-minded when people walk through your door and to see. And that's one of the hardest things about me as a small business owner, maybe for you too, I don't know, is there's so much opportunity in every individual. Sometimes you take too much time. Like, and you want to bring people in your business. So what I've had to do in my world is I've had to look for people that are really detail oriented and kind of cautious, because we're packing peaches and broccoli.
Yep.
Right. And they will bruise one another, or, and so we want somebody in our business who's really careful to do a really good job.
Yeah.
You only need one Tristan. One flaky business owner who's out there thinking about the future, you just need one visionary type person, but then you need a bunch of detail people who love detail, who want to get it right, to kind of fill in the gaps. And so I'm looking for detail people. We use the DISC surveys a lot of times when we hire people.
Yeah.
We got that through Dave Ramsey, and that's been really helpful to help people understand who they are and how they're wired.
Yeah.
And you can tweak those a little bit. You can kind of game them, but not much.
Yeah.
Like, and I've taken a couple of those, and I'm always, I like people and I like making decisions.
Yeah.
And if I want to change my mind, I will do it in a minute, because if your idea is better than mine, Brent, I will go with your idea. My idea is not always the best idea. I'm just putting it out there, and so for me, I'm looking for people that want to come to work.
Yeah.
And who want to do a really good job.
Yeah.
And if you're not wired, I want you to go do something else, because more than likely you're called to do something else.
Right.
Right. It's not like you failed. It's just that this isn't the right spot for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how we approach hiring people and looking for them. But we could use some more. It has not been easy lately to find help. Matter of fact, it might be impossible to find help. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I do feel like,
hard.
I think the administration, Trump and Biden both have done the small business community a disservice by giving away so much unemployment, taking a lot of people off, out of the workforce.
Yeah.
I think that's been a harder policy. But I'm glad. I think it's coming to an end, and maybe we'll have a few people start to come back to work or want to work.
Right.
Because we're not paying bad wages. We're paying fair wages.
Yeah.
But most people, I don't fault them, but if you could stay home and make the same money and do nothing,
right.
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
But if you're able-bodied and you can put on a mask,
yeah.
We shouldn't pay you to stay home and do nothing. We should put you to work, and you can become part of society, because not working is not healthy either.
Right.
We are supposed to work. We are supposed to be doing something, volunteering or working, and when we're getting paid to do nothing, that's not healthy either.
Yeah.
So work's not evil.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a couple things there. I think one, I think we've seen a lot of people. I think work is put in a negative connotation a lot of times. But I get to, for myself, now I love what I get to do, and each challenge, each problem is a, it's like a puzzle to solve.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that I think the unemployment and some of the freebies and stuff like that have been given out, and I want to be careful too, because I do think it's very important. There are the people that are the single moms and the people that need that money, and with no school and no childcare, how do you get a job if you can't bring a child to work? So I for those people, my heart just goes out to them. But it is the other thing that I felt is, even just seeing it happen, is what does money mean and what is it worth? I feel like people have completely lost what that means right now.
Very interesting, yeah.
Because if the government gives you a $2,000 check, and up until that point you have been given, you've been working, and most of your paychecks are between $1,000 to $1,500 or something, and all of a sudden you get $2,000 for free, it just warps that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It is harder, and we're gonna have to wrestle with that for a while.
Yeah.
And then the amount of student debt and things like that, the cost of housing. There's some really big issues we have to work on, and there's probably gonna be better solutions for them. But right now we have to figure out how to get people back to work.
Right.
Because we chose in July not to plant. We said it was hard because we usually grow a fall crop of beets and cucumbers and lettuces and cabbages, but there just wasn't any labor coming down the pipe, and we had to still deliver and make things work. And so we just, we're growing out all of our pumpkins and winter squash and tomatoes, of course, that's in the ground in the spring, but we just didn't have any labor, and we couldn't see it. And then school's starting up, and of course your kids go to school, then you can't, put them to work because they're at school, and so it's one of those seasons where as a business owner, you almost lose money or the opportunity to make money because the labor isn't there.
Right.
And that's not good for the economy either when you can't, find enough help to, produce your product.
Right. Well, and I think that's the other thing that we're seeing. I mean, it's not even I think it's very obvious the supply chain issues because there's not the laborers, because there's not people that are out there doing that work, and then you get other shortages, and this is like I've talked about this before of the benefit of lean manufacturing is that everything is stacked on each other and everything is reliant on each other from the starting of the product to when it gets to somebody's door. The problem is with lean manufacturing is if you take a few of those pieces out for a month and then plug them back in, you don't just lose a month. You lose a lot more because everything is so dependent now.
Right. It's very true. And we didn't have as much supply disruption, but there were seasons where we had to change a menu every day because, maybe there wasn't this product available or that product available. And so we were constantly having to just slot in what was available during that season.
Yeah.
Bags and boxes have just been massive price increases after massive price increases. And, we've been able, we stockpiled before it all happened because we just planned.
Yeah.
But, we stayed way ahead of that, and so we're always probably 4 months ahead of any boxes we need because, we heard about it, right?
Yeah.
But, it was, now, what the cost of a van that we buy went from like $19,000 to $32,000 in like 3 months, right? And these are used U-Haul vans for delivery of all things. And then, and boxes, they went up 100%, in like 4 months.
Yeah.
And it is a reminder that, we probably should have a little more homegrown, supply going on and not so independent on cargo ships. And, if the cargo workers go on strike, the longshoremen or something like that, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We don't want to see that again. Let's not go there. Let's talk about some more positive things. Like, we live in a beautiful place with a beautiful community.
For sure. So then as you were pivoting and starting Cal then, what was it, how has that been? You were mentioning already that there was a big difference between a CSA company and a software company. Mm-hmm. What are the biggest things that have come out of that?
Businesses are still, as much as it is, buy supplies, manufacture something and deliver it, or, pass it through. People's personalities come out different in those. And so home delivery in the truest sense for us, we just did things in a unique way too. And so our product wasn't really built for these other business owners and their mindsets and how they were doing business.
Yeah.
And a lot of the businesses are smaller businesses and they were just, kind of flying by the seat of their pants, right? They were just making it work and cobbled together. And so we're trying to actually help them put structure to their business because we're a little bit larger and we've been through those things. And so we had to kind of bring them. So a lot of times just coaching them to be able to use a system like ours because it was new to them and then it forced them to make a decision.
Yeah.
Everything was on the table now. Some things had to be let go of because, now you want to grow.
Yeah.
And you can't have 3,000 products and grow like that. You got to have like 300. And so that was one of the challenges is that, the businesses we found were typically owner-based and wanted to grow, but they were owner-based.
Yeah. Yeah.
And work with them. And one of the reasons that we were able to do what we did was because Elena, my daughter, who's, second generation, much like you, right? Second generation, had stepped in and started running, Box of Good. And she was super talented at it. And so she freed me up not to have to
put out every fire.
Yeah. And she was good at it. She actually made the business even better because her skill set's a little bit different than mine. And so that's been helpful. And then Joelle, my wife, she picked up the social media. And if you ever get a chance to go on our Instagram or Facebook pages, the photography is phenomenal.
Yeah.
She is really good at capturing, the farm in action and the produce and things like that. And so having, Joelle step into the business because now we just have the 3 younger ones at home, and then having Elena step in and run the business gave me that freedom to sort of help out. And be more of a parent to the business, so to speak.
Yeah.
And visionary, but I could focus on Cal.
Yeah.
And it's taken everything I got to run this new software company because at 38, I had way more energy than I do at 55, right? But serving people, I was compelled to step back in because when I saw how well this worked, other businesses need a chance to survive, and they're going to need a better tool. They're going to need a complete toolbox to compete in the marketplace because there is more Amazons coming. There are more HelloFreshes coming. There are more, QFCs, and, it's just going to happen, even, Walmart, right? And so if you're going to compete in the home delivery space, with your product, and it's typically going to be a very narrow space because you're not going to carry everything Walmart carries.
Right.
You've got to add some personality, and you got to have a really good tool belt.
Yeah.
And Cal is that comprehensive solution. And so I just had to I just wanted to help so much. I just invested back into it, right? Because we didn't have to do this.
Right.
We could have just kept running Box of Good and saved a ton of money, and also, could have farmed into, yeah. But in the end, when you want people to be successful, you do things differently, right? And I want people to be successful.
Yeah.
I want you to be successful. I want, TJ to be successful over there. I want, every little company that wants to do home delivery, I want them to have a chance to succeed.
Yeah.
And so that's what the product is now. It's a chance for businesses to step in.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Very cool. What have been the unique challenges to that one versus when you were starting up Box of Good?
Well, Box of Good, I had the produce experience, right? I had the delivery experience, and so I could pretty much do everything.
Yeah.
But with software company, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
I don't write code.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have to sell the vision and then find the business, and then I have to turn loose the dev team.
Yeah.
To kind of make it happen.
Right.
And then it was hardest for me to get my mind around what the software could and couldn't do.
Yeah.
Just because, everybody has a product and needs to deliver it. So therefore Cal works. But that is not true. Cal requires, delivery frequencies, and, payments are generated when you make a delivery. And, there's a bunch of stuff that's triggered by a process of going through fulfillment.
Right.
And so not every company is really a good fit. Even if you do ship something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the right fit. And so having to discern what companies are the right fit.
Right.
And then also, are you ready for it?
Yeah.
And some companies are just bigger. They have their own solution.
Yep.
And so it's been good for me to understand where our product really serves people and put energy in that.
Yeah.
And even the shed industry, you think about shed industry, they buy a shed, build a shed, deliver a shed. I buy produce, put it in a box and deliver it.
Yeah.
But it was still a big difference. But I had a friend who had a shed business, and he needed to bring his company up from the 70s when he got it from grandpa, and so we helped him do that. And, and so even that business is still different enough that's actually probably a fork. We've actually now have Cal sheds and we have Cal home delivery because they are different enough, even though they're similar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're just different. And so learning how and what you have to offer.
Yeah.
Right. There was one time, this one story, it was during a snowstorm, and we were going home on Marine Drive, and there was a family that was stuck in the snow, and I stopped to help, right? Well, I don't have a four-wheel drive truck.
Yeah.
I have a 15-passenger van at that time, right? And so it ended up causing a car crash behind us because the person way back there come around the corner couldn't see.
Oh, no.
And so in my desire to help, I had created more opportunity for problems, right? And so then what I realized, and this is, just me, learning and evolving as a Christian and a person, that if I can help, I help. But if I need to drive by and pray, then I'm going to help that way.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the tool at that time other than desire to help, and so, and now I'm learning in business that, I have to help those who I can really help.
Yeah.
And discerning where they are in their business model and whether our product line up is all part of the game. Because you don't want to waste people's time.
Right.
You want to help them do a better job.
Yeah.
And so if it's a 30-minute conversation or a 30-year relationship, I'm game.
Yeah.
I'm willing to invest 30 minutes at least to figure out if we're the right fit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think bringing this full circle, that's true when you're looking at team members and stuff like that, and you're bringing people on board, and then the people that move on, and then the people that you do have to move on, by letting them go, all of that is, they're sometimes just not the right fit, and they're, no matter how much you like the person, because we've had that, where you've got this great person, you love them as a person, it's just not working within the business. And then they move on, and they're very successful, and you're like, I was holding that person back because I was trying to put a square peg in a round hole, when they really just needed a square hole. And
sometimes they actually are afraid to move on.
Yes.
And so you have to unleash them a little bit or help them move on because it is better for them. And that's the hardest part, because when they really want to work in a good company or in a great place, and they're cared for, but it's still not quite the right fit.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part about being a business owner, is when you love the person and you like them, but you have to say this isn't the right fit.
Right.
But it's better for them, right? And that's why we always tell our own team members, as I shared earlier, like, let us know when you're thinking about moving on. If God's calling you a different direction, or you feel like you want to do something else, go back to school. We're happy for you. We will happily send you on your way.
Yeah.
It's harder when you have to say, I need to send you on your way.
Right.
And then to do that with grace,
Yeah.
right, and kindness.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So.
sure. All right. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions.
All right.
The first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most in the last 3 months?
I bought a Filson fishing hat. Filson is this great company in Seattle, and they make really good outdoor clothing. And it's a great hat to wear. And it was under $100, and I bought
Nice.
it. Yeah,
Very
I got to use it in Alaska a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
It was
nice.
really nice.
Perfect. Pretend you have a friend coming from out of town. What would the first day look like here?
Well, depending on their physical ability, we might go for that nice little walk off of the island when you come on the ID trail there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or we would, maybe come here to the marketplace, get some coffee, and go to the state park.
Yeah.
But we'd want to introduce them to just the natural beauty in town here. And then I might end up with dinner at, Jasmine's or something.
Yeah.
Depending if they like Thai food or not. So the first day here would definitely be an introduction to just the beauty of the natural resources around here. And
Yeah.
we are richly blessed.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. Who is an interesting or fascinating person in this community that I should interview next?
I would interview Carm Pierce.
Okay.
Carm Pierce is spearheading the Camano Stanwood Art Center,
Okay.
which was the old furniture store right down there on the brick road.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a new art center in town, and he's kind of chairing that and picking that up, and he owns a design company down in Everett. I would interview Carm Pierce and just kind of see where he sees the vision of that art center going.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yep.
All right. And finally, what piece of advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I would encourage my 20-year-old self to save more. I think that everybody should save something every paycheck, whether it's a company 401k or an IRA or just a savings account. Nobody saw a pandemic coming.
Yeah.
And if you are a saver, and if you practice saving, if you autopilot your saving, if whatever you can do to save money, you will be prepared when there's hard times.
Right.
Because you'll have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
And you won't miss 1% or 2% or 3%. You just won't miss it. And if you put it away, it will grow over time, and you will have different opportunities when you're 50 or 60 or 70 than if you start when you're 50, 60, or 70.
Yeah.
And then I would also pursue what you love. Like, I would find out how I'm wired and what I like, and I would try to find things that lined up with that much sooner in life.
Yeah.
And I think I did okay with that. Like, I found the love of my life, and I found, opportunity to serve people, and I get to be in this natural resource industry, and then I get to deliver fresh produce people, that's really amazing. So yeah, love what you do and find a way to do it, and then save, be a saver.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
Yeah. And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Tristan Klesick for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other Islanders like yourself. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/podcast. That's CamanoCommons.com/podcast. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.